It is Wednesday, August 19th, 2026, and this is The High Road, Logistics and Leadership. I'm Jewel Sterling, and I'm here to translate this market chaos into something we can actually sort of work with.
This is Alina Rossi.
I'm Dan Miller.
And I'm Buck Reynolds. We have a great show for you today.
Yesterday, we covered Strait of Hormuz crisis, the Ice Silk Road, Northern Sea Route, and domestic freight market stagnation paradox.
Actually, I think people are still reeling from our coverage of that Strait of Hormuz expiration. The 60-day peace deadline failing was the big one.
Look, it wasn't just that. We hit the Northern Sea Route risks and that weird EPA NOx standards pre-buy cycle, too.
The thing is, between that and the drones falling into truck cabs in the UK, my head is still spinning from yesterday.
Well, today is even busier. We're looking at a supply-driven freight recovery that feels, sort of backward, right?
It's the play of the year, Jules. Look, the American Trucking Associations just dropped the July tonnage numbers, and honestly, it's a mess of signals.
Oh, mess is putting it lightly. Tonnage is down 1% sequentially, but everybody's acting like we're in a bull market.
Because we are, at least on the supply side. The bottom line is that capacity is exiting the market faster than a freshman at a kickoff party.
I guess that is one way to put it, Dan. But the ATA index hit 113.5. That is a 0.5% decrease compared to last year.
Exactly. Bob Costello called it lackluster and choppy. If the tonnage isn't there, how is this a recovery?
Because the line haul index is up to 152.9. Expenditures are up 9% even if shipments are down.
So we're paying more to move less, right?
Exactly. The cheap capacity era is dead and buried. The market isn't growing because people are buying more stuff. It's tightening because the trucks are just gone.
The ones that are left are hauling HVAC units for AI data centers. That's the only thing keeping my regional guys busy lately.
That specialized tonnage is a bright spot, but it carries a higher risk profile. You see, those loads are high value and high consequence.
Bottom line, we're at a supply-driven inflection point. If you aren't locked in now, here's the play. You're going to get crushed by the rates next month.
I'll believe it when I see a line at the fuel island again. Right now, it just feels empty out there.
Speaking of feeling empty, let's talk about the Black Sea, because that situation just took a turn for the worse.
The thing is, we're talking about a functional blockade now. Over the last 48 hours, drones have been slamming into commercial grain ships.
It's not just military targets anymore. Actually, at least 5 grain carriers were struck. The MV Anna S is essentially a fire on the water at this moment.
That was the Liberian-flagged one, right? Struck on Monday?
Yes. And the MV Victoria 5, the Russian ship, they hit that one Tuesday while it was loading wheat.
See? This is what I'm talking about with technology. These drones make it so anyone can reach out and touch a hull.
It's a strategic shift, Buck. Look, Ukraine is making Russian maritime insurance impossible to get. If you can't insure the hull, you don't sail.
If I may. Moscow is trying to make Ukraine landlocked by blowing up the bridges in Odessa. And Ukraine is retaliating by making the sea a graveyard.
It's sort of a race to see who runs out of ports first, And it's sending wheat prices into a total tailspin.
My thing is, if the Black Sea is closed, that grain has to go somewhere. It's going to put even more pressure on the European rail networks, which are already a mess.
Everything's a mess, Buck. But look, that's where the money is made. Managing the mess.
Managing the mess is one thing. Navigating a 50% tariff cliff is another. That US-Canada agreement only gave us a 72-hour reprieve.
Only 72 hours? Well, okay. That's barely enough time to get a single load across the border and back.
It's the American Supply Chain Sovereignty Initiative. We're building a North American fortress, Jules.
A fortress with no gates? I mean, how are we supposed to keep the lanes moving if the rules change every 3 days?
Actually, I think the goal is precisely to make it so difficult that you stop looking overseas and start looking at domestic suppliers.
That's a long-term play, Dan, but my clients need parts now, right? They can't wait for a fortress to be built.
Well, speaking of being stuck at the gates, the Port of Los Angeles is actually seeing record numbers, even with all this global chaos.
Gene Soroka said they handled nearly 960,000 TEUs in July. It's the second busiest July they've ever had.
Front-loading. Look, everybody was rushing to get their stuff in before those July 24th tariffs kicked in.
Is that why the rates to the East Coast hit $9,400? That's insane for a market that's supposed to be soft.
It isn't just front-loading, Buck. You see, the carriers are blanking sailings aggressively. They're canceling trips to keep the ships full and the prices high.
So they're artificially tightening the supply, right? Sort of like the trucking market, but by choice instead of bankruptcy.
Exactly. It's the rate paradox. Demand is softening, but prices are surging because the carriers have finally learned how to control the faucet.
And then you have the Panama Canal draft restrictions, 48.5 feet now. Large ships are having to offload cargo just to float through.
The thing is, if they offload in Panama, someone has to pick it up. That's more work for the feeder ships, more touches, more chances for something to break.
It's just one bottleneck after another. And now the German ports are on a 24-hour strike?
Yes, Hamburg was paralyzed yesterday. Contract impasse. It's a global game of whack-a-mole right now.
Bottom line, the West Coast is the only stable entry point right now. And Soroka knows it. He's basically rolling out the red carpet for all that diverted Suez cargo.
Well, let's hope the carpet isn't made of tariff-bound textiles. Hey, before we move on to the robotics surge, a quick note from our sponsor. Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering. This show is powered by the stack developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. Support the architect behind the code. Visit our Patreon at patreon.com/neuralnetworkmedia for a free trial and access to our daily briefing PDF today.
Okay, let's talk robots. Because while the ports are striking, the machines are apparently working overtime.
The Association for Advancing Automation says robot orders were up over 4% in Q2. But the revenue, Dan? The revenue was up 21%.
Because we're not buying simple arm swingers anymore. We're buying the high-value AI-integrated stuff. Look, automotive orders fell 25%, but semiconductors? Up 35%.
I mean, I still don't trust a robot to back a trailer, but 15% of these orders are cobots now?
Collaborative robots, Buck. They work alongside humans. I suppose it's safer than a fully autonomous zone, but it's still a huge cyber target.
Well, that's actually the big shift, right? We're moving towards security-first automation.
It has to be. The White House is using detective AI at the border to catch $75 billion in transshipment fraud.
Actually, the FCC just banned foreign-made mobile robotics for critical infrastructure. They're finally realizing that a robot is just a computer with wheels and a camera.
I've been saying that for years. If you wouldn't let a stranger sit in your server room, why would you let their robot roll through your warehouse?
It's a fair point, Buck. You know, we're seeing this non-automotive pivot happen in real time. Life sciences orders are up 32% too.
The warehouse is the new factory floor. Look, companies like Kimberly-Clark are using AI procurement platforms just to stay ahead of the rate surges.
I wonder if they've accounted for the liability shift if that AI makes a negligent selection.
Well, we're sort of getting ahead of ourselves, but you're right. The tech spend is exploding, while the defenses are hardening.
I just hope they don't automate the rose gardens. I still want a human touch on my petals.
Buck, I think your roses are safe, for now. But let's look at where the actual money is moving. Amazon is on an absolute tear in Connecticut.
29 projects, $4.28 billion. I mean, they're basically paving the whole Northeast with blue vans at this point.
It's the first mile blitz, Bach. Look, that new 1 million square foot facility in Norwich, it's a sorting beast.
Actually, the one in Naugatuck is even more impressive. Or terrifying, depending on your view. 3.2 million square feet, 5 stories, processing 800,000 packages a day.
Sort of feels like a fortress of their own, right? And it's not just Amazon. UPS is doing the same thing.
The bottom line is that industrial real estate is the only place people want to put their cash right now. Did you see that Starwood deal?
$672 million for fenced lots? I mean, they call it industrial outdoor storage now, but back in my day, it was just a dirt patch for trailers.
I suppose. But that dirt patch is now a critical institutionalized link, spanning 8,300 acres across 33 markets.
It's the professionalization of the middle mile, you know? And it shows that capital is flowing toward niche specialization.
It's a resilience strategy. If the spot market is volatile, you own the land where the trailers sit. You control the physical space.
I mean, it's a lot of money for a fence and some gravel. But I guess if Amazon is building 5-story warehouses, you need somewhere to park the gear.
Now it's time for Iron Lady's Verdict, our Wednesday segment, where we perform a forensic analysis of the industry's most critical failures.
Uh-oh. Who's in the crosshairs today, Elena?
Stellantis. This week, we aren't looking at a mechanical fracture. We are looking at a systemic failure in software quality assurance.
Is this about that rear-view camera recall? I mean, that sounds, well, sort of minor, right?
Actually, Jules, it is anything but minor. We are talking about 850,000 vehicles, nearly 1 million globally, including Ram ProMasters and Jeep Wranglers from the 26 and 27 model years.
1 million trucks just for a camera? I mean, I grew up using side mirrors and a prayer.
The thing is, Buck, this is a violation of federal motor vehicle safety standards. If the screen stays dark when you shift into reverse, the vehicle is legally undrivable in many fleet applications.
Look, it's a liability nightmare. If a driver backs over a pallet or worse, and that camera didn't trigger, the lawyers will eat you alive.
Exactly, Dan. But the real verdict here is the software regression. Stellantis had this exact same recall for 1.2 million vehicles back in 2024.
Wait, so they fixed it once and then let the bug back in?
Precisely. It's a ghost in the machine that migrated into the newest generation of radio software. It shows a complete failure in internal regression testing.
I mean, if they can't even keep the camera app working, how am I supposed to trust the software that controls the engine or the brakes?
You shouldn't. That is the verdict. For a fleet manager, this isn't a glitch. It's a breach of trust. When you buy a 2027 model, you expect the basic safety features to be settled.
Bottom line, Stellantis is moving too fast on the multimedia side and failing on the fundamentals.
If you have Ram ProMasters in your fleet, check your VINs immediately. The liability profile is indefensible until that patch is applied. That's Iron Lady's verdict for this week.
Well, okay. That's a sobering thought. But it leads right into our main story today, which is honestly the biggest legal and regulatory mess I've seen in years.
You're talking about the FMCSA data seizure battle. 22 state attorneys general are suing the federal government.
17 million CDL records. I mean, they want social security numbers, dates of birth, license numbers. The works.
The FMCSA basically gave an ultimatum: turn over the database or lose $10 million in federal funding.
That sort of feels like a shakedown, right? I mean, why does the DOT need all that personal data in one big bulk transfer?
The government claims it's for safety oversight, but the states, led by Illinois and New York, say it's a massive overreach of driver privacy.
It's a constitutional crisis. I mean, my license is issued by my state, not by Washington. If the DOT wants my records, they should have a reason, not just a bucket.
Look, this is going to disrupt licensing across all 50 states if they don't settle it soon. The federal contracts are on the line.
And it's happening at the same time as this massive spike in cargo theft. CargoNet says theft frequency is down, but the losses are up 125%.
$304 million in Q2 alone? That is... wow.
Because they're stealing GPUs and AI clusters now. The average theft is over $560,000.
My thing is, it's all cyber-enabled now. They don't hijack the truck. They hijack the software and tell the driver to go to a different warehouse.
And here is the kicker, the nuclear liability issue. The Supreme Court's ruling in Montgomery v. Caribe Transport has changed everything.
Right. You mentioned that, the $60 million verdict against C.H. Robinson, right?
Actually, it's closer to $600 million when you look at the total fallout. The point is, active authority is no longer a defense for brokers.
If you hire a carrier and they have an accident, you can't just say, well, they had a valid DOT number. The courts are saying you should have known they were risky.
I mean, how are we supposed to know? We aren't the FBI. We just need a load moved from A to B.
That is the crisis, Buck. The safety exception is being interpreted so broadly that brokers are being held liable for the carrier's every move.
So you have to vet them like you're hiring a nanny, right? Sort of makes the whole on-demand freight model impossible.
Bottom line, you either build a closed network of carriers you trust, or you prepare to get sued for everything you're worth.
And with Tapia Enterprises versus Star Logistics this week, the courts just stripped away even more negligence protections. The burden is shifting entirely to contract language and insurance.
I mean, my insurance premiums are already through the roof. If I must cover the broker's liability, I will simply park the fleet. Who'll return to my roses?
It's a lot to take in. We've got the government trying to seize driver data, organized crime stealing high-value chips, and the courts blowing up the liability model.
Look, it's a high-stakes chess game. The relationship guys, the ones who actually know their drivers, are the only ones who are going to survive this.
Actually, I think the only ones who survive are the ones with the most expensive lawyers and the tightest digital security.
Well, I've got a CB radio and a clean driving record. I hope that's still worth something in 2026.
I think it's worth more than ever, Buck. You know, behind every GPS dot, there's still a human relationship that needs tending. That's all for today's The High Road. We covered the supply-side recovery, the Black Sea blockade, and the massive liability crisis facing every broker and carrier in the nation.
Stay safe out there.
Keep the rubber down.
Watch your six.
And remember, if the rear-view camera goes dark, just use your mirrors. And maybe call Elena for legal advice.